Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea by looking at two very different characters. On one hand, you've got the scribe, meticulous, disciplined, whose entire world is about recording the truth. And on the other, the master gardener, totally focused on cultivating life. So what could these two possibly have in common? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything.
So, let's start with a problem we all face, right? Every single system we create, whether it's a company culture, a software project, or even just a simple garden, it has this natural tendency to decay. It just drifts away from what you originally intended, errors start to creep in, and things, well, they fall apart. The real question is, how in the world do you stop that inevitable slide into chaos?
To get to an answer, we're going to put two really powerful ideas right next to each other. From the world of information theory, we have something called the doctrine of observational integrity, a super rigorous system for preserving truth. And then from microbiology, we have the true gambit, a strategy for controlling living systems. I mean, one is all about information, the other is about biology. They sound like they're from completely different worlds, but what if they're actually describing the exact same solution?
To figure that out, we first have to understand their starting points, because they are fundamentally different. Let's take a look at how each one even thinks about the idea of control. The scribe's philosophy. It's all about what you might call disciplined passivity. It basically argues that your first job isn't to change reality, it's to capture it perfectly. You have to build a system to see what is actually happening and then record it without any distortion, without any bias. The whole goal is to maintain a perfect, uncorrupted mirror of the truth. Now, the true gamut. That's all about taking action, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. It's really the gardener's philosophy. It says you don't control the plant itself, you control the soil, the water, the sunlight. You see, you engineer the conditions to favor the outcome you want. It's all about being preemptive, not reactive.
Okay, so we've got a passive scribe and an active gardener. Two totally different approaches, right? But this is where things get really interesting. When we look at the main tool that each one uses to fight that systemic decay, well, it turns out to be the exact same weapon.
You know, it's pretty amazing. Both of these frameworks argue that the foundation of any stable system is a perfect time-stamped memory, an incorruptible record of what happened in the past. They both demand that you create a ledger to act as the system's one single source of truth, and that ledger guides every future action and stops that drift we were talking about earlier. And the parallels here are just striking. So the scribe's doctrine, it calls for a binary spiral ledger to record observations and stop things from drifting. The gardener's gambit uses a biological ledger to track organisms and control how they adapt. The names are different, sure, but the core function is identical. They both exist to create an unchangeable record so the system can't be fooled by a bad memory or just wishful thinking. Because as the true gambit puts it, without records, adaptation outpaces response. You're just flying blind.
So this shared reliance on a ledger, it leads us to the deepest, most profound connection between these two ideas. And honestly, it's one that fundamentally changes how we should think about control itself. It's all about shaping the environment.
For our gardener, the environment is pretty straightforward, right? It's the tangible physical world. It's the moisture in the soil, the temperature in the air, the flow of nutrients. These are the physical levers you can actually pull to decide what's going to live and what's going to die.
Okay, now here's the big conceptual leap. For the scribe, the environment isn't physical at all. It's informational. It's the system of rules you create, the protocols for validation, the scheduled reevaluations. It's this abstract structure that you build to create the conditions where truth can survive and falsehood just can't. You're basically creating a garden for facts.
And this just nails the core idea. It doesn't matter if your system is a petri dish or a project management workflow. Stability doesn't come from reacting to problems as they pop up. It comes from preemptively engineering the environment, whether it's physical or informational, to make success the most likely outcome and failure the really, really difficult one.
And the proof is right there in how they fail. The parallels are just uncanny. For instance, the scribe warns against something called affirmation dominance. That's when you act on what you believe instead of what your ledger actually shows. Well, the gardener calls that same mistake over-intervention, watering a plant because you think it's thirsty while completely ignoring the data from your soil moisture sensor. From ledger corruption to observation collapse, they fail in the exact same ways.
So this all brings us to the crucial takeaway. We don't have to choose between being a scribe or a gardener. We can actually combine their wisdom into a single, incredibly powerful model for building any system that's designed to last.
And here it is, that unified model. It's 5 simple steps for basically any system. First, observe reality. You got to be the scribe, see what's really there. Second, record in a ledger, create that unchangeable source of truth. Third, and this is the huge insight from the gardener, shape the conditions around the system. Fourth, you have to constantly reevaluate using your ledger. And finally, number 5, intervene minimally. Act based on the data, not just on your gut feelings.
So let me just leave you with this question. We spend so much of our time reacting to problems, right? Putting out fires, fixing what's broken. But what if the true path to stability isn't about getting better at reacting? What if it's about becoming a master gardener, engineering environments where problems, just like weeds, simply struggle to grow in the first place?